I'm gonna do it by myself. Everybody loved George.
I'm used to struggle. Me and George have struggled our entire marriage financially. I would never hurt or take anybody's life for no money.
And in those emails, she talks about yours and hers relationship and talks about how good you are sexually. But now says it's my husband that was hit. But you already knew that.
I didn't. When I made the call.
George Young was shot and killed. Prosecutors believe his wife and a friend were having an affair and killed him for his $1 million insurance policy.
On the night of November 16, 2017, tragedy struck in the quiet neighborhood of Buford, Georgia, when celebrity bodyguard George Young was brutally gunned down outside his home. Inside, his family slept peacefully, unaware of the horror unfolding just steps away. Given George's high-profile career, the search for his killer was bound to be complex. Yet, those who knew him insisted he had no enemies. But as the investigation unfolded, one chilling truth emerged. George's greatest enemy was closer than anyone could have imagined.
I just need you to separate your feet, sir.
Atlanta, Georgia, known for its vibrant culture and bustling urban scene, was home to 43-year-old George F. Young, who lived there with his wife, Tia Banks Young, and their 3 sons. George was often described as a family man and an incredibly present father despite his demanding career. He worked as a bodyguard and had recently launched a successful celebrity-focused bodyguard business. As a result of his hard work, George was able to provide his wife and children with a comfortable life, settling them into a safe and upper-class neighborhood in nearby Buford, Georgia. On the night of November 16, 2017, George F. Young had just wrapped up a high-profile assignment, guarding rapper Lil Yachty at a clothing line launch in a bustling Atlanta mall. Exhausted after a long day, he arrived home at around 11:30 p.m., eager to unwind. But as he approached his front door and slid his key into the lock, the silence of the night was shattered by 2 deafening gunshots. At the time of the shooting, Tia's brother, Harvey Tim Lee, was staying at their home. Hearing the commotion, Harvey grabbed a shotgun and went to investigate. That was when he discovered George's lifeless body soaked in blood lying on the front porch. Panicked, Harvey ran upstairs to inform Tia, and they immediately called 911. Harvey then rushed back downstairs to attempt CPR, with a neighbor joining in shortly afterward. Detectives quickly ruled out robbery as a motive, since George's wallet, cash, and other personal belongings were untouched. As they combed through the crime scene, the CSI team found a single shell casing, which raised more questions than answers since George had been shot twice. Detectives quickly spotted a CCTV camera aimed directly at the entrance, raising their hopes of capturing a critical lead. But those hopes were quickly dashed when they learned that the camera hadn't been recording at the time of the incident. To make matters even stranger, George's family revealed that the camera had been out of operation for months, an odd detail for a man who made his living in security. Investigation. When the investigation began, theories and assumptions swirled in every direction. Some speculated it was a case of mistaken identity, while Tia, George's wife, suspected a gang-related crime. But here's the thing. This upper-class neighborhood had no history of violent incidents, let alone gang activity.
He was a really good guy. Everybody loved George. Everybody. Real friendly, likable personality. Will do anything for anybody.
Desperate for a breakthrough, they shifted their focus to George's everyday life. And that's when Tia provided a potentially useful tip. She said that George had mentioned being followed by a white SUV on 2 separate occasions, and one of those times the driver had even tried to run him off the road. Now, while the police pursued this lead, Detective David Smith noticed something unsettling about Tia's 911 call. The way she and her brother, Harvey Tim, had described events seemed inconsistent. Sensing that something was off, the detectives brought Tia and Harvey in for questioning, but what happened next only raised more questions. The interrogation. The detectives brought Tia and Tim in for questioning, expecting clarity, but were instead met with a startling revelation. Tim wasn't Tia's brother, but rather a family friend who had been staying with them. This was a red flag for the detectives, and they wondered if Tia had initially called him her brother in an attempt to divert suspicion. The situation became even more complicated when Tia was accused of having an affair affair with Tim by George's family members. However, they didn't have enough evidence to support their claims, and Tia dismissed it as baseless gossip aimed at tarnishing her family's reputation. Following the interviews, the detectives kept carrying out further investigation about George's death. Many months passed, and by April of 2018, armed with new evidence and a clearer understanding of George's murder, the detectives decided that it was time to bring Tia and Tim back in. This time, they were ready to confront them with the shocking truths that they had uncovered.
Hey, wait.
Yeah,
It's cold in this one.
it is.
So how have things been?
Stressful.
A lot of
Stress and just a lot of grief.
financial issues.
We're struggling. We're making it with my mom's help. 10 helps and what I have for Social Security.
Okay. You said Tim's mom helps or your mom helps?
My mom.
Oh,
My
okay.
mom.
Okay. So, like I said, the reason I brought you back in here today is I have follow-up questions. I kind of want to go over it again because that's just at the point that we're at now. That it's been a couple months. Sometimes bringing people back in and going over the story helps us find if there was something you didn't remember the first time. The thing is with it, the first time we talked and then you came up here and then we talked to you at the house, and I understand that there were some issues with that. It had gotten pretty confrontational, and I guess the way that some people had talked to you, right, at the house.
Yes, very.
Okay. One of the things is that when we bring people in over and over, obviously I know that because of the things we were going, because of the suspected relationship between you and him, because of all of those things, you were listed, as a suspect, but you knew that, right?
I found out through, yeah.
Okay. You found out through where?
Mutual Omaha. They sent me.
Oh,
They sent
okay.
a letter every month.
Oh, okay. So because of that, like I said, I want to go over this with you again today and ask you this, but because we've already kind of come at you hard and talked to you and all that kind of stuff, and I just did the same thing with Tim in there. I have to talk to you. Is that I'm going to have to read you your rights, okay? I don't have a warrant for you right now or anything like that, but to continue talking, because it's the fourth time I've talked to you, I have to read it to you, okay?
Okay.
You have the right to remain silent. So what I want to do today is just kind of walk back through what you can remember. Sometimes over time, people remember things that they didn't remember the first time. I'll help kind of jog your memories. We'll go with things that you told me, maybe you'll tell me something you didn't remember the first time, okay? So just start out that night. I know that you said you had gone or you were in bed. Were you like in a deep sleep, or were you just kind of sleeping, or what was going on there?
As far as I remember, I was in a deep sleep.
Okay. And then what happened?
I heard two loud noises. I wasn't sure if it was firecrackers or what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I sat up on my bed, looked around. My baby boy was still asleep. If I remember correct, I think I went to Tim's room, but he wasn't there. His light was on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember he was downstairs on the computer, on a laptop,
Mm-hmm.
at the table. I don't think I went to my mom's room right away. I think I went downstairs to where he was. And I think as I got almost down to the bottom step, he was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me, did I hear it? I said, yeah, I heard it. He said, it sounded like shots. I said, I'm not sure if it was shots or firecrackers or what it was, because some people in our neighborhood that I knew, they periodically do firecrackers for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point he said he was going to go get his gun,
Mm-hmm.
go up to his room, go down and check, see. I remember him opening the door, shutting it pretty quick,
Mm-hmm.
telling me to call 911.
Mm-hmm. And that's when he told you that it was that George was down there. Okay.
And I called 911. The lady goes through the whole thing. What's your emergency?
Mm-hmm.
And then I told her that my husband we heard gunshots, and my brother opened the door and said that it was my husband. She needed to know. I think where the shots were is what she needed to know. And yeah, that's the first thing she asked. I told her I couldn't do it. I couldn't go down there. So she said, is there anybody can look that can? I said, my brother. So he looked, told me what he thought he saw. So I relayed it to her. Then she wanted me to do CPR.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know CPR, first of all, and if I did, I don't think I'd have been able to gather myself to do it. I don't know. I could have, but I don't think so.
Okay.
So she asked me, is there anybody that could? I asked Tim, could he do it? He said, yeah. At some point, I remember throwing my phone down so he could talk to the operator. And then at some point, I don't remember. At some point, I went and got my mom. She wasn't asleep. I thought she was. She was in the room with the TV up loud.
Okay. So you were sleeping, you heard these shots, you come down, Tim's sitting at the table. You ask him if he heard that. He's like, yeah, he heard that. Did he go check out the door first, or did he go get his gun first?
If I remember right, I thought he went upstairs to get his gun first, but I didn't actually watch him go in there and get it.
Okay.
I think I remember him going up the steps, heading to his room, but I can't swear to it.
Okay. And you were on the platform?
Catwalk.
Oh, you were upstairs on the catwalk thing?
Yeah, by the time he went down to check on George, that's where I was standing.
So he goes outside and he opens the door. He sees it's George. And I know at some point he put his gun up. When did he do that?
I don't know. I don't know if it was after. I don't know if it was after emergency people got. I don't know. I really can't be honest. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
Okay. So he goes outside. At some point he puts his gun up. He sees George and he tells you, it's George and whatnot. And then is that when he tells you to call 911, or did you ever go down to the door or no?
No. No. I never went to the door. Okay. I stood up at the top where you could see over the thing.
Okay.
All I could see was like his feet and legs on the door.
Okay. And when you went and woke your mom up, what did you tell her?
But she wasn't asleep. When I went,
or when you went?
Yeah, I just said something bad has happened to George. Mommy, something bad has happened to George. And of course, she sat straight up. What do you mean? Or what are you talking about? And I said, Mommy, George has been shot. And she said, no. I think she might have asked me first, is it a crash? Did he have a wreck or what? Because she knew he was working that night with Rob. Mm-hmm. And I said, no. And by then, I think I was breaking down. I said, Mommy, George was shot. And she said, where is he? At the Lennox thing? I said, no, he's at the front door. And of course, I wasn't that calm, but she couldn't hardly digest it. So we walked out of the room. She stood with me on the little balcony thing, and I'm telling her, I'm walking her basically through what I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. She stayed fairly calm. I think she was in shock, just like I was. But she could see Tim down there. Like I said, you can see George's legs and feet from that angle, but that's all you could see. Okay. We could tell Tim was on his knees. I don't know. I think we just both just stood there in shock.
Yeah.
I think she was standing next to me whenever I threw my phone down, I think, but I can't remember. Okay. I know at one point I had to throw my phone down for 911 to talk to him about CPR.
Do you ever remember him leaving the area right there with George to go anywhere else out in the yard or anything like that?
Not that I remember, but I do know at one point I did go pee in my bathroom.
Okay.
So, but where that fell into it, I honestly couldn't tell you.
Okay. All right. Have you talked to Willie or any of those people from Ackerman since?
The last time I talked to Willie was it the day of the funeral? I think the day of the funeral. I haven't talked to anybody.
All right.
I was a little disappointed. They didn't reach out hardly at all.
Okay. I remember they said something about a donation or a fund or something like that. We had talked when we first talked. Did they ever do anything about that? They
never did do one.
Okay.
They didn't. They may have sent a flower, but I never even saw a flower.
Okay.
I saw some things from Salvation Army, which you did a lot of work for. Macy's with Rob sent flowers. Ackerman, to my knowledge, the only thing they did was 150 obituaries, and we paid for another 100.
Okay.
But they contributed 100. I think it was 150.
Okay.
Tia's story quickly began to unravel. In her initial testimony, she claimed to have called 911 thinking that the gunshots were just firecrackers because her neighbors set them off almost every day. But this raised a question. If she was really used to it, what made this time different enough to put the household on high alert, grab a gun, and make a 911 call? It seemed unlikely, unless Tia already knew for a fact that those sounds weren't firecrackers.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, obviously, is I talked to Tim, and one of the things that, I'll just be honest with you, in the beginning, issues with him is, we had talked to you, and you had told us what you had told us, and there was, I won't say there was much to that, but Tim just seemed, there was a lot more confrontation going on with him during the first interview and talking to him the day that you guys came up there, because of that whole tracker thing, which you said you didn't know.
George came to me about it, but like I said, I never knew it was actually purchased and the whole night.
Okay. So did you know the night that happened before whatever was going on with you and Tim that he had gone and retrieved that off the car?
No, not until you told me.
Okay.
I think it was the night I was here on the 18th.
But what do you think about that? I mean, why
would
he...
when you said it, I was floored because, like I said, first of all, I didn't even realize the tracker was ever purchased. Mm-hmm. And then when you told me that a neighbor or somebody saw him take it off, I found it really strange, and I even asked him about it later.
And what did he
say? Didn't ask him about it that night. He said with what George had going on or whatever about, remember I told you the guy who came down? He said he just didn't want, I guess, I think he said he just didn't want George being exposed in a bad light or something like like that. But I haven't asked him anything about it since.
Did you feel like that was, and I just want your opinion on it because I'll tell you how it looks to us. Do you think that was weird that in the moment that his friend is laying out on the front porch bleeding out, his first thought is to go to the car and pull that off instead of rendering aid to George?
Yeah, I found that weird. And that was before he did CPR?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I found that strange.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously I do. That's why I want to know. We asked him and he admitted that he went and did it, and he didn't have a good answer. He didn't really have an answer as to why. He said he didn't want you to find it or the family to find it and they would know, but I said it's under the car. Who's going to look under the car? That's weird.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, let me just ask you, do you think that have you ever felt that he may have been involved in this in any way?
I don't. I mean, I know that part of it doesn't add up at all. But I personally, the only reason I don't, not the only reason, but I just never seen any beef between the two of them at the house. I've never heard George, and me and George had a really good relationship as far as he would tell me about stuff that went on, or he got into it with somebody at Ackerman or whatever. But he never mentioned to me ever that they had a beef, disagreement. Like I said, even Tim went to him several times about, I can go ahead and leave now. You gave me 6 months. You told me I had 6 months. George came to me. You want him to go? Are you cool with it? I mean, it's a help to us because he's paying rent. And then at the end of the year, he came to George again. Do you want me to go? And George came to me and was like, what do you think? Because I'm cool with him being here. I go out of town so much. I feel better with him. So it's like George never let on that he had a beef or was threatened or scared of him, or I just never witnessed anything. And the kids haven't, and as far as I know, my mom has it. So I just, that part doesn't make sense.
Do you think he was jealous over the position that he wasn't making as much money as George?
I don't think it was that, because he was making good. Like George started him, I think, at $23 an hour. I think it was 23, and his first raise was up to like 26. So I don't think it was that. And I know there's been several times George couldn't make payroll, and he had to go to David and Tim and, can I give you half or 1,000 and I pay you the rest? And they've always said yes, every time. Never know. He's never come back and told me, oh my God, Tim is hot, or David is pissed. And then he's borrowed money from Tim before. And Tim told him, pay me back when you can. He's fixed my car several times because George didn't have the money, neither did I. And he just told George, pay me when you can. It's fine. And to my knowledge, George has paid him back every time. Okay. Now I know this last time, I think the last time I got it fixed was in October. That was a transmission. I think it was like over $2,300. I don't think we finished that off yet. I think we gave him maybe $1,300. But George was in the process between the two of us paying him back. Okay. But that's the only part I don't know. If I had something to go on, something I've seen, it's just nothing.
Okay. The Young's neighbor informed the police that immediately after hearing the gunshots that night, he looked out his window and he saw someone who he believed to be Tim running from the house to George's SUV parked in the driveway. The neighbor claimed that he watched as Tim removed something from the vehicle and then ran back inside. When confronted, Tim explained that George had asked him to place a tracker on the car in case something ever happened to him. But then things took a bizarre turn when Tim was asked why his first instinct as George lay dying was to remove the tracker. He claimed that it was to protect George's reputation, alleging that George had been involved in trading guns between Florida and South Carolina, and that a man named Carlos had recently come to their home and told Tia that George owed him money. But when the detectives asked Tia about this, she knew nothing about it and was unable to support Tim's story.
George's job, and you guys would be set to be together, and that was the whole deal.
Well, I can tell you that's a lie. That's a lie.
So I want to hear from you the truth and what was really going on, because if that's what he's telling me and I already know he's involved, you see how that makes it look?
Yeah, but that's book. I can tell you that's book.
Okay. Well, tell me.
First of all, like I said, I don't know that he's involved. I don't know anything about what happened that night. Nothing.
Well, listen,
I didn't even know the policy was any good until me and Rob called a couple days later.
Okay.
So first of all, I'm used to struggling. Me and George have struggled our entire marriage financially. I would never hurt or take anybody's life for no money. And like I said, first of all, I know at one point George had $1 million one, a $450, and then I had a $250 on me. I knew he had at some point dropped mine. I didn't know he dropped the $450 until me and Rob started our calls and found out one was no good and the other one was. But him taking over the business, I know nothing about that. Okay. That was never a discussion we had.
One of the things that Ivy said was you told her that there was $1 million policy way earlier last year.
Who?
Ivy.
Me and Ivy have never discussed an insurance policy, never. Now, George told me at some point that Ivy knew about it. Him and Ivy were very close, and she used to work for George remotely from Myrtle Beach. She could log on and do work for him. So at one point, I don't know, I think it was a couple of years ago, he said that an email that I guess the insurance company sent him, Ivy saw it. Or I don't know, she could access his massive email. And so he told me, he said, now Ivy knows about the insurance, policies that we have. But me and Ivy would have always been close.
I guess, obviously the concern is, I'm telling you, the thing with him is he got the tracker. He got it. He had tried to put some apps on George's phone before then. And he said George knew about those. I know for a fact George didn't know because I have his text messages where he explained to George that it was Xena, that Xena was trying to do that to him. But I know for a fact they only were signed up through his phone because I could tell that he did that. So he was trying to find ways to track George, and George didn't know it, which is why I have a hard time believing about him knowing that the tracker was going to be on the car, because he didn't know about the other stuff on the phone. Because why would you explain to him Xena did it and explain it away if he knew that's what you were trying to do? You would just tell him, this is what I'm doing. Because when he downloaded those apps, it sends a notification to the person you're trying to track. So George was like, why am I getting this notification? You're trying to track my phone. And he said, oh, well, Xena's been trying to track me, which is not true.
Okay. Yeah, this is new to me.
Also, he was looking at that app for the tracker, which in his words is only supposed to be in case something was going to happen to him, to find the truck, not him, which is weird that you're only worried about the car and not him. He was looking at it from the day that he bought it on the 6th. He was looking at it every single night. And he was looking at it the night before George came home.
You saw the night of the 16th?
Mm-hmm.
So the tracker sends a message to his phone? I mean, I'm confused.
Okay, so a couple of days prior to the murder, earlier in the month of November, he tried to download these apps on your phone, just like an iPhone app or a Samsung Android, I'm not sure how that one works, where you can track somebody's phone. Well, when you do that, you're not allowed to do that without their permission. So when you put in that person's number that you want to track, it sends them a notification. I have it on George's phone where he got the notification and then asked, Tim, why am I getting this? And he said, oh, Xena's trying to track me because of stuff going on with her. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry about it. But I know for a fact he signed up for it because it came to his email through his phone number that he signed up for it. He has to download the app on the phone. So you see what I'm saying? So George didn't know he was trying to track him. Otherwise, he would have been like, hey, I'm tracking you because we talked about this before. Remember?
Oh, okay. I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then he got that actual tracker and was using it, the one he put on the car.
Okay.
He was looking at that one on his phone.
Okay.
We have the app, and I can show every time he opened it, every single night from the night that he bought it up until the night of the murder. And he was looking at it the night of the murder before George got home. So he knew when George was going to be home because he was watching him on the map.
Okay, so.
And before that,
he had somebody do. I'm lost.
That's what I'm asking you.
Hell, I don't know. I have no idea.
Before that, he was researching all kinds of poisonous things online. He researched black mamba venom, which is the most venomous snake in the world. You cannot buy the venom online like he was trying to over 27 times. That's how many times he looked it up to try to find. He tried to find the venom, then he tried to find breeders where he could buy the snakes himself. You see how that looks? And then a week later, you buy a tracker to put on his car, and then I know that you're looking at it the night of the murder. And the first thing you did, instead of helping your friend, was run out to the car and take the tracker off? Who does that? You know what I'm saying? In front of a jury, when you look at that, say, what would a reasonable person do? No reasonable person would jump over a dead body or somebody who's dying to go pull something off a car. That would be the last of their worries.
Right.
While Tia claimed to have no knowledge of George still holding a life insurance policy, her actions suggested otherwise. It was revealed that George had a $1 million life insurance plan, with Tia listed as the sole beneficiary. To make matters even more suspicious, Tia wasted no time after George's death, and she immediately contacted the insurance company to begin processing the payout. Not exactly something that an innocent and recently widowed grieving wife would immediately do.
So that's my question to you. Now, the problem is that now he's bringing you into it.
I have nothing to do with it and know nothing about it. That's what I'm saying.
So you called the insurance the very next day, right?
The next day or 2 days later, I can't remember.
So it was the next day. And do you see how that looks, though?
But My mom could tell you if you talk to her. She started bothering me that next morning.
Mm-hmm.
She said, Tia, you need to, do you have insurance? How are you going to do a funeral or anything? And I said, Mommy, and she could tell you if you call her right now before I can even reach her. I said, Mama, I can't deal with that now. I'll worry about that later. I said, I'm overwhelmed with what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kept saying that. And matter of fact, it was her, and I'm not sure, it might have been even after George's mom and his sisters.
Why did you want to
arrived.
call the insurance that soon, though, the very next day?
That's what I'm saying. My mom is the one that kept telling me I needed to call.
Okay.
She kept, because she knew I didn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
She said, how are you going to do a funeral if you don't know if he has a policy? Mm-hmm. And I said, Mama, I'll get to that in a couple of days. I said, right now I'm overwhelmed with what just happened. Mm-hmm. This was he died on Thursday. This was like Friday. Mm-hmm. When I had several people, like friends asking me, do you have insurance? Do we need to take out something for funeral? And I said, my mom keeps bugging me, but I haven't called yet. Mm-hmm. So then even Rob, when I talked to Rob said, do you know if Cuz had insurance? Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't know. Mommy keeps bugging me about calling. So that's when Rob said, well, let me look for the policy with you. We'll call together before I leave. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't my first reaction. Like I said, you can call my mom right now and she would tell you. Okay. She was the one egging me on that I needed to call because she was worried about funeral expenses. She knows she only gets $1,300 a month. She knows I didn't have a job. So her big thing was, what are we going to do about a funeral with no money? But after I called, she said it was effective. She said, I'm going to email you the papers I need to fill out. You can ask the lady. She emailed them, I think, to me on Friday. I didn't even print them off, I don't think, till like Saturday or Sunday. Mm-hmm. Mommy kept asking me, have you filled the things out? Have you printed them? If you even call the insurance company, I don't think I sent them the stuff till the next week or a week and a half later. Because I wasn't in a rush because it's like I was too overwhelmed with everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. But yes, I made maybe 3 calls, I think, to Mutual Omaha since then. Mm-hmm. I stopped calling. They told me about 10, 11, 12 weeks ago, Miss Young, whenever you're cleared or whatever, we will call, send an email, and mail you something in the mail. Mm-hmm. You don't have to keep calling. I haven't called them since, and it's probably been close to 3 months. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, I just write it out of my head, and I've told numerous people who have said, did you get your life insurance? A lot of people don't know how much it is. Mm-hmm. But have you gotten your life insurance? I said, no, it's still an investigation. I told him I haven't even called.
That wasn't the only unsettling thing about Tia's behavior following George's murder. George's friend, Rob, informed the police that Tia acted strangely when he visited her right after the incident. She had shockingly mentioned wanting to send her kids to school the very next day, despite the fact that crime scene tape was still draped around their home. By the way, if you're finding the video interesting so far, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It really supports the channel. Now, let's dive back in.
So, what do you say about the whole him saying you and him have been in a relationship? I know I just asked you that, but why would he just come up with that to say that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. Yes, we were close. Like I said, very, very close. And since George has died, we've come a little closer, but I think it's more so because he has, my boys really look up to him. Because my kids, we don't have any family. Mm-hmm. They don't have any uncles. George has one brother that they met for the first time when George died. So they don't have any male figures, so they really look up to him. So now they call him Uncle Tim. My middle son even said to me, and I think I had a text message on my phone a few weeks ago, mm-hmm. that he kind of looks up to Tim almost like a dad figure because we don't have any men in our life. Mm-hmm.
In his phone, he had you saved in his phone as Big Sis. You knew about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is your phone from your phone. Why is he saved under Sonia under your phone, both of his phones?
That's just what I put in. His older sister name is Sonia.
Well, why would you do that though? Unless that looks like you're trying to cover up him being in your phone, like you didn't want George or somebody.
Oh no, there's quite a few people in my phone that I don't have under the actual name.
Okay. So one of the things that like I told him is that when we took his phones, we could get everything that was done. Okay. Mm-hmm. So obviously, I was able to retrieve everything that was off of his phone. Okay. And so I have all of these emails that you sent him talking about yours and his sexual relationship. You remember those?
Yes.
Okay. So this is where we're at, Tia. Okay. I want you to listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's been going on. I know Tim's involvement. I also know there's a lot more that's been going on here. Okay. What I want from you now is to understand all of this, because what it looks like is you're this hateful, horrible spouse that connived with your live-in boyfriend to kill your husband for money. If that's how it is, then that's fine. You can tell me that. But if that's not what happened, then this is your only chance to tell me what was really going on.
That's not what happened.
Then tell me this is your only chance to tell me what's really going on, because everything else looks really bad. And I'm telling you right now, if you put all of this in front of a jury without your explanation of it, that's exactly what they're gonna think.
I did not have anything to do with George's death.
Okay.
And definitely nothing dealing with him wanting him dead for money. Nothing at all.
Okay. So you're willing to let all of that stand in front of a jury?
Yes, as far as having anything to do with his death, yes, I am. I am. Because I know I had nothing to do with it. Nothing.
Okay, but you've been having a relationship with Tim. What has he said to you?
He hasn't never said anything about wanting to hurt George ever or taking over the business. That's why I'm sitting here like, this is new to me. He's never said he wanted to take over Metro Atlanta security. He's never told me he wanted George dead. He never said he was going to try to hurt George. Never. Not once.
All right. So George got home at 11:23, okay? And he had just gotten off the phone. And when he got off the phone, he came inside, or came to open the door. And that's when people remember hearing the shots around that same time, too, okay? The 911 call was not placed till 10 minutes later when you guys called. Now, in that time, I've gone over the store with you multiple times, and you've told me that he opened the door, he saw it was George and all of that. So I can tell you that when I go back and listen to the 911 call, that it is absolutely 100% completely staged. The things you told the dispatcher, you had already done and already said.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't, and I wasn't.
Why not?
Because he told me to call 911, and that's exactly what I did, and everything the lady asked me.
And then while you're on the phone with her, he says, oh, there's somebody got shot. And then he says, oh, can you send an ambulance? My brother now says it's my husband that was hit. But you already knew that.
I did. When I made the call, when he told me to call 911, the lady asked me, I said, I heard some shots.
Tia froze the moment that she was confronted with evidence exposing a glaring hole in her story. The detectives observed her pause, interpreting it as a desperate attempt to scramble for an excuse to cover her tracks.
I said, I heard some shots. She asked me, I believe she asked me, I don't know, I think she might have asked me, did I know who it is or whatever. I don't remember all the details. But what I'm saying is, when I called, it was not staged. I called, as soon as I heard the shots, went and found Tim. Well, what I thought at first was firecrackers. I wasn't sure what it was. Okay. And went and found Tim, and he checked and told me whatever the time frame was to call 911. That's what I did. Okay. I did not stage the conversation or any of that.
Okay.
And that wasn't the only suspicious thing that Tia did. On November 17th, the day after George's murder, while she wasn't home, Tia contacted a friend with an unusual request. She asked her to locate and retrieve the cell phones belonging to her and Tim. The friend found this highly suspicious and refused to comply. Later, Tia apologized for the odd request, explaining that one of Tim's texts might make him appear violent. But why would she care? Her husband had just been murdered.
Hey, I looked into it. You gave me a totally different story than he did. You said it was some Cuban guy named Carlos. He said it was Terrence Bannerman, the pudding guy that you grew up with. I found Terrence. I know that stuff's not true.
The Carlos guy is true.
But why would you tell me Carlos and he brings up some guy? Those are not even related at all.
I have no idea. The only thing I can tell you is about the Hispanic looking guy that came to the house looking for him. And when I didn't call George right away, I didn't even text him. I waited till he got home that night, and I told him about the guy coming by. George's eyes got real big. He looked at me and I asked him, what in the world is this about? Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. It's somebody I got some financial help from. Don't worry about it. And then I said, George, you need to tell me, because this guy said he means business. Is this something are you into something that would jeopardize us? What's going on? And he just said something to the fact, he said, I'm just running weapons or delivering weapons or something like that. He said, but you don't need to worry about it.
And so then every time after that, when I asked you, is there any reason anybody would want to hurt him, you never mentioned it until we brought it up to you.
Yeah, that night when he was killed, I didn't think of it.
Why would you not think about somebody coming to your house, asking for money, looking for your husband, talking about running guns?
But it was 2 or 3 months before that. I didn't think of it at all.
Okay. How come that most of the messages and phone calls from you and Tim are deleted in your phone, but they're all in his?
What you talking about? The phones you have? Yeah, I would delete them. I would periodically delete them.
Okay.
There's even another coworker that I talked to that I would delete the calls from.
Tia had made an unusual request during her 911 call, asking the dispatcher to instruct the police not to turn on their sirens. Her reasoning? She didn't want to wake her sons.
When I called 911, I begged them not to turn the sirens on because I didn't want my kids to see him like that.
Her sons were fast asleep, all right, but the depth of their sleep struck the detectives as oddly unusual. especially given all the commotion outside.
We were in and out of their rooms doing searches. We were talking to everyone, the medical examiner, the fire trucks, ambulances, police, CSI taking pictures, neighbors coming outside. Everyone woke up but the kids.
Didn't take long for detectives to uncover that Tia had given her son sleeping pills the night of George's murder. Now, Tia claimed that she often gave her second son sleeping pills due to his trouble sleeping and explained that she had done so that week. However, Tia's son exposed her when he unknowingly contradicted her, stating that he hadn't taken any sleeping pills for months until the night of his father's death. Detectives even suspected that Tia hadn't just given sleeping pills to one child, but to all of her kids that night.
You gave your middle son the Unisom, correct?
Yeah, but I give him, he gets that a couple times.
Well, he had before, but when we spoke to him, he said he hadn't gotten it in a long time, and that was the very first night he'd gotten it in a long time, in over a month.
It probably been a couple of weeks, I guess.
You see what I'm saying, though? That night, the night that he normally goes out in the middle of the night between 9 and midnight is the night your husband comes home at 11 p.m. and gets killed. It makes it look like you gave it to him so that he wouldn't wake up during that time period. And it's also weird that we're there, the ambulance comes, the police come, we walked in their rooms and went everywhere, and none of them woke up in any of that.
But I asked. Me and my mom both asked everybody that came in the house. My mom, she was the first one that started asking, please be quiet. My grandchildren are asleep. My daughter doesn't want the kids to wake up.
I know, but the ambulance and everybody coming in and out, and none of them ever woke up. That's the first night he got that pill. You see what I mean?
It's not the first time he had it. That's what I'm saying.
In a while.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't give it to the oldest one, and I don't give it to the baby. And to make this out like I'm doing it for money, or it's done for money.
I'm telling you that's what it looks like, and that's what he's telling me.
Well, that's some bull. I can tell you that. That's some bull. Yes, I will admit, and I apologize for lying. I am very embarrassed about this. I really am.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
And you guys are still in a relationship now?
Yes, to be honest, yes. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, that's what I want. Because listen, Tia, I'm telling you this is how it looks, and I keep telling you this. He's going to try to take you down with him. And I'm telling you, when he gets up there and he starts talking about everything and what you did, and you don't have anything to counter that, and you don't have a way to say, no, that's BS because this is actually what happened, or this is what he told me, or that's right there is going to be a huge issue. You see what I'm saying? Are you ready to go to jail today for this?
No, because I know I'm guilty of this.
Then
and
tell
this
me.
Is wrong.
Then tell me. There's no way he's been living under your roof and you've been in a relationship and you don't know that something was happening.
As far as this, you talking about hurting Georgia having a sexual, no, that part I don't. That part I don't. That part I don't. The sex part, the affair, I'm very, very embarrassed. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how embarrassed I am. I really am. I'm sorry that I never told you.
So much that you continued it past your husband dying?
The first 2 months we did. It started back up around the 1st of March. The first couple of months we didn't. We called it up. We just stopped because I'm going to tell you the truth. I was afraid that my boys would end up picking up on something is wrong or catching us kissing or something. So we both said the boys have been through enough and I didn't want to chance them seeing anything inappropriate to send them off because I'm sure it would hurt them deeply that I'm talking to Tim and Daddy's just not too long ago died. So I think it might have been like the middle of February or 1st of March when we kind of got and talk, kind of get romantic again. But up until then, no.
Okay.
This couldn't have been further from the truth. Shortly after George's death, his sister, Ivy, traveled down from South Carolina to console Tia over the loss of her husband. But instead of finding a grieving widow, Ivy was met with something deeply unsettling. She witnessed Tia and Tim cozied up in ways that were anything but appropriate for a time of mourning. According to Ivy, it was so bad that she had to cut her trip short. She described how Tia would spend an unusual amount of time in Tim's room with candles lit and romantic songs playing.
He was going to fix the cameras, and him and Donald were going to fix the cameras outside.
Not that week. The boys told me that.
Okay.
I wasn't present. I didn't know nothing about it.
You see how that kind of put a timeline on it, that it had to be moved up? Because if they waited another week for George to be killed, then the cameras would have been working. So the person that did it knew that. They knew the cameras were going to be working soon, and they had to do it then.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Couldn't follow what you were saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying, but I didn't get what you were saying. Like I said, I didn't know nothing about the conversation until the boys told me. I think when the news interviewed us or something, and the boys said that their dad had talked to them about training. I think he was going to let my oldest one watch him do the cameras or whatever, because he would take him in the summer. But my thing is I just found out not too long ago the daggone the neighbor. No,
this is not the time.
Nothing. Nope, there's nothing. The only thing, like I said, that I have to admit now to the world, I guess, is the affair.
Well, I don't want you to protect him.
I'm not protecting him. I have to own the things that I'm guilty of. I will own it at this point. The affair, I'm very embarrassed, and I know my mom and my children would be very hurt by it, but if it has to come out, it has to come out. But anything beyond a freaking affair, that's it. That's the only thing I'm guilty of, is having an affair. Yes, and I'm not belittling it like it's nothing. I know that's a big thing. So I'm not saying it like, oh, that's all I did, but that is the only damn thing I'm guilty of, is that. That is it. And is it wrong? Is it dirty? Is it treacherous? Yes. But I will own it. That is what happened. Okay. And if I need to, I mean, you have to tell me, do I need to go ahead and tell my children about their affair?
I don't tell your children. That's not my job. I don't tell people that.
Okay. I didn't know whether I need to go ahead and tell them.
I don't.
Now, will you be telling, I know you, it's up to you whether you tell me that. Will you be telling his mom and his sisters about it?
About the affair?
Yes.
I don't discuss those types of things. If he was charged or somebody's charged him, then I will tell him, hey, so-and-so's been charged in the murder, but I'm not going to go divulge
Okay, because I prefer if you're going to tell him, I'd rather tell him first.
Okay.
That's the one I'm asking.
All right. Well, let me go talk to him again, okay?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you need right now?
No, but I'm going to, my son needs to get to practice at 5:30.
Okay. All right.
Tia eventually admitted to being in a relationship with Tim, but claimed that it began because she suspected George of cheating on her. However, the detectives could find no evidence to support her claims about George's alleged infidelity. Harvey Tim Lee. Though the detectives had already a strong case against him, they hoped to extract more information from him, potentially uncovering additional details or motives behind George's murder.
Talk to me about the what happened that night and where you were at and all that. I know we've gone over it several times, but just kind of walk me through it again, okay?
That was several months ago.
Yeah, well, just what you can remember. Sometimes people remember things they didn't the first time around, so and you may say something now that will be like, okay, that helps me, so.
Yeah, I got a bad memory though. From sleep apnea.
Okay.
That night, the 911 call.
Mm-hmm.
I ran inside. Well, actually, turned back around.
Mm-hmm.
I ran inside. Told Tia, look, pick up the phone, call 911.
Okay. So you were at the table, right?
Yes.
Sitting on the laptop. So she, at some point you saw her. Now when you went to the front door, you looked out the window, and that's when you saw it was George, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At what point did you go out the door?
When I went back up and came back.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I went out.
With the gun? Like you had when you were putting it back or when you were bringing it down?
Bring it down.
Okay. And then you put it back. And when did you see Tia again? At what point did you?
She was talking to dispatch,
Mm-hmm.
and I was out there just kind of shaking him, George,
Mm-hmm.
but not. She said, I heard her faintly said, my brother's out there, got it out. So
Mm-hmm.
she said, T, the lady on dispatch wants to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
So came back in, got the phone from her, and she asked me if I know how to do CPR. I said, no, I don't. And then she walked through it.
Okay. At what point did the neighbor come over there?
Doing the part where I was trying to perform CPR.
Okay. All right.
And then she actually took over.
What was going on with the cameras that were on the house? I remember saying that they weren't working. When was he planning to fix those?
George had been saying that for the longest.
Okay.
In fact, when I moved in, he said that because that was one thing that I picked up on. I was like, okay, cool, you got cameras here.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, but they don't work.
Okay. So they hadn't worked since you had moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why he never fixed them? Since that's what he did for a living, that he didn't want the ones at his house to work?
I had no idea because his best friend, Rob,
Mm-hmm.
we had just did Rob's house, I think back in November,
Mm-hmm.
might have been. So it's like, we do this for a living every day, and then we just did your best friend's house.
Mm-hmm.
But Still had no cameras up.
Okay.
Many fingers point at Tim as the prime suspect, largely because no one knew that he was living with George. Even worse, that George had never mentioned it to anyone. But Tim said that George had offered him a job at his security company after he lost his previous job. When George discovered that Tim was living out of a hotel, he invited him to stay with the family, unable to just stand by and watch his friend struggle.
Have you talked to Rob?
When after everybody left, I talked to Rob briefly, and then I want to say maybe about probably about maybe 3-4 weeks later, I texted him and I was just like, I don't understand, like, why am I being looked at as a suspect?
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, well, tell the police got to do their job, you know, all be a text. But he was like, you know, everybody asks questions.
Mm-hmm.
He said, so we're just asking questions.
Okay.
He said, because I myself didn't know that you were there.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing that threw a lot of people off.
Mm-hmm.
About you living there. They didn't understand where you came from or why you were there or why. He wouldn't just mention it to somebody.
And even when I explained that to Ivy that night, she said, I hear your story. She said, but that's bull.
Mm-hmm.
She said, if my brother would have told me, he would have told me. And even when Margie interjected, she said, Mama, I hear what you're saying, but no, he would have told me. She said, out of all my siblings, me and Bubba would be close. He would have told me.
Do you know if he talked to her often or no?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like from I think it was the first time or the second time we talked. But anyway, from the first time I met them, like George, Laura, the older sister, she was already moved out.
Mm-hmm.
George took care of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he paid the bills. He got all his sisters ready. He did all that. If they needed baths, George did that. So him and Ivy were always real tight.
Mm-hmm.
And even when George moved to Georgia, I think he stayed in Savannah then, made his way back here, Ivy got into some little issues in South Carolina. So she relocated here, started working for George, stayed here for a couple of years, and she moved back to South Carolina. And she was still working for George in South Carolina. So, I mean, anytime he went home, he always made sure he saw Ivy. He always made sure he saw Ivy.
And that's where he was at the week of the murder? He'd been in South Carolina?
The week before? No. The several days before.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We knew that he was going down to the beach to visit Margie and spend time with Ivy.
Okay. All right. So one of the things was, obviously I've talked to you before, and a lot of people had some concerns. What was your relationship with Tia? I know that you guys say it's a brother-sister relationship. I know that in the phone it said big sis, and you had said that that's what it was going to say inside the phone. That's how you had her saved. What is the relationship in your eyes, and what was it before? Has it changed at all through any of this?
I mean, she's still my big sister.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, I always look out for her. If you ask her mom, she'll tell you the same thing.
So, I mean, I talked to her mom, and that's what she said. My question too is, in your phone, you have her saved as Big Sis. In her phone, she has you listed as a female's name for both of your numbers. You know why that is?
I mean, I never went through her phone.
So this is her phone, and these are your numbers saved under this female name. And then that's the black phone you had, and then the IPH is the iPhone.
Well,
so why does she?
Sonya is my sister.
Mm-hmm. Does your sister had both your numbers?
No, I'm talking about my big sister, my real sister. Her first name is Sonya.
Okay.
So I don't know why she has.
But why would she save you and her phone as that? If you guys are so close, why would she feel like she has to hide it?
I don't know. I don't go through her phone.
I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, was she worried that did you guys talk a lot that George didn't know about? That she was gonna. She thought he was gonna be upset?
We always talked in front of George. So I mean, it was wasn't just me, several of her co-workers, but like she said, and if you'd ask her mom would tell you the same thing. Like her boys, like we could be in the room. Matter of fact, I knew Ivy brought it up that night. But we can be in the room, listening to music, watching movies. George come home, he'd go get the computer chair, pull it right in the room, and we'd all just sit and watch the same movie. Because they didn't have a TV in their bedroom. So the only 2 TVs in the house upstairs is mine and the mother's, Tia's mother. So
Tia and Tim had been exchanging inappropriate texts and explicit pictures, taking their affair beyond mere secrecy. Not only that, but the pair had been having sex whenever George wasn't home. Detectives believe that Tia saved Tim's number under the name Sonia in her phone to avoid raising suspicion whenever they were in communication.
So, like I said when I remember that we had your phones before, I told you we can get everything that's deleted, right? Okay, so in that, obviously I have those emails. I have all those emails that Tia had sent you, okay? And in those emails, she talks about yours and hers relationship and talks about how good you are sexually.
From Tia?
So that's obviously my issue here is that everything shows that you guys were having some kind of relationship. So I just want you to tell me why. And I know, you know, these were sent to you and you read them because it shows us whether you opened it or not. So tell me, why are you lying about it?
I like to exercise my right to plead the fifth.
Okay. Do you want to continue this conversation, or you just don't want to talk about this?
If I can go, or if I can contact my own attorney at this point.
Do you have an attorney? All right, let me talk to her right quick, and then we'll work on that, okay? Hey, Tim.
Yes, sir.
So, obviously, after I talked to you and you wanted to speak to a lawyer and all that, okay? I kind of have to go with everything I have based off of what I have, okay? You're going to be transported to the jail today, okay? All right? You'll get to speak to a judge when you get over there, and you can call a lawyer and do whatever you need to do, okay? All right?
Use the bathroom first.
We'll let them decide that.
Was it
Yeah, we'll do that.
Tim, Harvey.
What's up?
Tim, will you stand up for me? Put your hands behind your back. I'm going to give you some instructions. I just need you to separate your feet, sir. There you go.
It's a quick ride, Tim. You can use the restroom once you get there. Probably less than 10 minutes. You're not gonna pee yourself, are you?
I'm kind of close.
Kind of close?
No,
Okay.
we'll get you.
Sergeant Penn will make sure that
We'll get you
won't
close.
happen.
Do you have anything on you at all? Tim. Okay. What do you have in your pockets?
Cash.
After information about the case got out and the insurance company was informed, they withheld the $1 million life insurance payout, stating that they would not release it to Tia until a court delivered its verdict. Court. After the intense investigation, Tim and Tia Young were arrested and charged with malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault in connection with George Young's death. Prosecutors argued that the motive behind the murder was Tia and Tim's alleged relationship and their desire to live off George's $1 million life insurance policy. Now, while the case was strong, there were critical gaps. No gunshot was found on either Tia or Tim, and the murder weapon was never recovered. Well, despite these missing pieces, detectives maintained that Tim had personally shot George, especially because of timeline discrepancies. But they didn't rule out the possibility that Tim might have hired someone to carry out the act. Both Tia and Tim pleaded not guilty, but the judge denied them bail. On April 15th of 2019, Tia Young was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Harvey Lee, meanwhile, received life without the possibility of parole for malice murder. Now, if you think this case was horrific, you need to check out my video on the evil teen who did a brutal stabbing at her school.